Good morning, Sunday school. Good morning. So happy to see you all on a Sunday morning. And guess who is pretty much on time today? My class actually let out early, so I am here mostly on time and excited to talk about Nehemiah with you. Pray that your week was a good week. Rain Sims, you were number one this morning. Glad you're here. So glad about it. And good morning, Designer Grandma. Good morning. Hello, Sister Sandra from Chicago. I never get tired of Chicago. I can come to Chicago always. I love it there. All right. Hey, Sister Amina. All right, well, let's go ahead and prepare to get started. I know that others will join, but since I'm on time, I might actually make it into the sanctuary on time today, too. And yes, I'm in the room that's next door to the sanctuary. So as usual, now you get serenaded on a Sunday when I'm in town and I come to the church. So that's the singing that you hear in the background as our praise team practices for service this morning. All right, we are talking about Nehemiah, the captive cupbearer, rebuilds a nation. We're going to get into our lesson here, but I want to go ahead and pray and then we can get started. Father, thank you for another day. Thank you for another opportunity to have life and breath and health. Thank you for just another opportunity to be your representative here in the earth. God, I thank you for this group of people that join us for our class on this morning. Thank you for the bond that you've given our class. Thank you for the blessing of your word. Thank you for the benefit that your word gives us. And thank you that we are growing and learning as we study your word together. Now, Father, open up our minds, our hearts, our understanding as we explore this lesson on Nehemiah. Show us new things and help us understand how it relates to us on this day, April the 18th, and how we use this word to move forward. I ask that you bless every individual who's present in our class. You know each one of them and what they stand in the need of. And today I ask you and I thank you for being just what you are. And that's a great God who can do anything. We love you and we give you glory in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay. Nehemiah, the captive cupbearer, builds a nation. That's kind of a tongue twister this morning. Bible basis is Nehemiah chapter 2, verses 11 through 20. Our Bible truth, Nehemiah rallies the Israelites to rebuild the walls and reinstitute Sabbath worship. Our memory verse is verse 17, and the lesson aim is that we will analyze why Nehemiah restored the walls of Jerusalem and revived the Sabbath law. Appreciate Nehemiah's feelings and behavior in restoring the wall and reforming Jewish worship, and identify ways to restore worn parts of the faith community and revive traditions that honor God. Okay, I have a question for you to start this morning. I want to know if you can tell me about a leader who has inspired you to join a project before, a leader who's been able to get you to join any type of project. Why did you say yes? What was it about that leader or their style or the way they ask you that caused you to become a part of the project? I can tell you probably the biggest thing I've done is here at Dominion Word. When we started this church, being a part of the leadership team that I guess to hear the vision of pastor and to be one of the charter members to come over was a big thing, to buy into what we now always refer to as our mission, vision, values, goals, not just his passion for ministry, but literally knowing the kind of ministry that we would be and knowing how we would serve people and that community would be important and knowing the values of this ministry. That's what made me join a brand new church from scratch. And that was a big deal. We talk about it as we talk about every year at our anniversary, we always remember going into a dusty warehouse. So we have a beautiful sanctuary now, but when our pastor first took us to see the facility, it was literally a dusty warehouse and there was nothing built inside of it. We could see from one end to the other. And so to hear as we walked around, he was saying, okay, this is going to be the sanctuary. And over here, this is going to be, these are going to be Sunday school classrooms. And this is going to be our cafe. And back here, we're going to have more. Like it was, you had to just kind of work with him in that moment because as a passionate leader, he saw it. And all we saw was the dust on the floor in a dark building. We could only visit it during the day because it was dark. Nothing. So that was kind of my story of being motivated by any type of leader. Sister Valerie says they were busy working the project and not just standing by and watching. And that caused you to want to join in to the project. Do I have a newbie here? Yeah. Hey, Sister Charlotte Johnson. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome as a first timer. And my name is Waynell. Henson, I didn't tell you that. Glad that you're here today. And I pray that you'll be blessed and watch others who are going to say hello to you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. And anybody else who's new this morning, do the same. Do what Sister Johnson did and let us know that you are new. Let us love on you this morning. Sister Mina says, Pastor Mike Todd, to be a B group facilitator, his passion and the way he told us we would be helping others to come and learn about the kingdom of God, it made me want to be a part. Absolutely. I love that. Hearing his heart. Sister Diana Green, my pastor with the addition of the Family Life Center for the women to head up, and I serve as the chairperson. Your pastor is hands-on. I love these examples, and I honestly think that what we're seeing are the kinds of qualities that we find in Nehemiah as he rebuilds a nation. And what a huge job to rebuild a city that had been destroyed. And he wanted to do that. Go ahead and start to tell me. I know that you've done some background study because this is a Sunday morning class. And so that means you've done your work. What do you know about Nehemiah? Tell me what you found in your background study. Now, by way of just kind of quick Old Testament, and this is where we've been, we know that as the children of Israel came out of bondage and into the promised land, they were there for a while. And ultimately, let's just get to the point that they split. The 12 tribes split, and there are 10 tribes that go north, and there are 2 tribes that go south. The 10 that go north, they immediately are given to their own thing, their own desires. They are given to idols. They change the feast days. They actually even change the ceremonial requirements for priests. And they just had bad leaders, like more than 200 years of bad leadership, wicked kings. And God tried. He tried to send prophets to them, but ultimately they were conquered. Let's talk about the southern kingdom, because that's where we are going to kind of sit with our lesson today. Benjamin and Judah, the southern tribe, they stayed in Jerusalem. And that's the place that God chose to put his name. Jerusalem was always a special place to God and to his people. And we need to keep that in mind as we look at Nehemiah's desire to rebuild the place where God was. Now, they had a better leadership run than the northern kingdom, but ultimately, even remember, Moses tried to warn them before they went into the promised land. You're going to get over there and there's going to be some stuff and it's going to tempt you and it's going to look good, but make sure that you keep your eyes focused on God. And they lost that. And so as a result of their bad behavior, God had to do something to get their attention, to turn them back to him. And what did he do? He allowed the Babylonians to come and overtake them, to conquer them. And their city was absolutely ravaged. I know we've seen lots of cities ravaged even in the last couple of years in the U.S. where there were protests. And I don't want to necessarily talk about the protesting function, but if you've ever watched buildings being damaged and destroyed and fire and things falling, think about that with an entire city going up in that way, being under attack. That's what's happened in Jerusalem. And they were taken into captivity by the Babylonians. It was supposed to be 70 years. 68 years in, the Persians actually overthrow the Babylonians. And so those are the Medo-Persians. King Cyrus is the leader then, who begins to allow the Jews to return to their homeland. Let's look here. I see some great stuff about Nehemiah. Sister Amina tells us that he was a cupbearer to King Artaxerxes. So we're learning 2 facts there. Thank you, Sister Amina. His job. Let's talk about the king first. He worked for King Artaxerxes. And King Artaxerxes, if you read anything about him, he just wasn't a good guy. He wasn't happy most of the time. He was a rude kind of guy. He made a lot of people nervous by his entire disposition. And here is Nehemiah, who is a cupbearer to a really contrary king. I think one of the lessons that we can continue to learn, we think about what does it mean practically? It means that you and I, as people of God, even when we work for really tough managers, we can still reflect our God and we can still be successful. We can still have the things of God in our heart. And so working for a contrary king, his job was to make sure that there was no one who would poison the king. So before he would drink anything, before he would eat anything, it would be the cupbearer who would take that for him to make sure. He was, yes, Sister Joyce, born during the captivity. And that's why I wanted to set this up and let you know that they were in captivity. Nehemiah, even though he has this desire, has never actually lived in Jerusalem. He was born during the time of exile. And yes, it was Nehemiah who was sent to rebuild the wall in Jerusalem. Brother Kevin, he absolutely is a man with great skills to convince. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. He convinced the king to allow him to go back to begin the work to rebuild. The king, the cupbearers are not just food tasters. They have Sister Cynthia's comment cut off, and I'll watch for the other piece of it. But yes, he was heartbroken, Sister Jeanette. I use that word as well, as he looked at his homeland. It broke him. And I just wonder, and you can share with the comments, as you look at our world today, what do you see and look out at, and it breaks your heart? And not just things and people that we feel sorry for, but what breaks your heart enough to want to move and do something about it? May not be a major program or rebuilding a wall, but what makes you want to do something about it? I'll just share briefly. I've had my nephew this week. He left me last night, but he talked me into going to Sky Zone on Friday night. Now, imagine Auntie out there on the trampolines with the 15-year-old, but that's not what I want you to focus on. I literally looked, and there were tons of Black boys and brown boys, and they were, kind of older children, not, maybe I'd give them between the ages of 12 and maybe 16. And in that moment, with everything going on in the news and looking at the disparate treatment of Black males in this country and brown males in this country, for a moment, whereas I was supposed to be having such a great time, y'all, I looked at those boys and I tried not to cry at Sky Zone, because I realized that in the world that I live in, the next 5 years will look so different for each of those boys that were just having the time of their lives on Friday night at Sky Zone on trampolines. And that kind of thing breaks my heart. And I know that there are things that break your heart. Yes, Sanford Robinson, racism breaks our hearts. Miss Cunningham, homeless children break our hearts. Absolutely. And there are so many things that we look out and we see. And that was Nehemiah's issue. So when they would return, there was only a remnant that would return, but they would go home to what was a broken area. And if you've ever lost anything by fire, I need to share a video onto my page. I used it in the children's video this week. I remember the video I showed them shows my home church, the Henson Memorial Church growing up. Oh my goodness, Brother Kevin, thank you so much. You wowed me this morning with a gift of $100 to our class. You're incredible. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for supporting this ministry and always affirming the work that we do. And Sister Jeanette, thank you so much for your gift of $5. Brother Kevin, you're an awesome leader and you inspire me. You really do. I appreciate you. The Henson Memorial Church, my grandfather built it. He was not independently wealthy, but because he had a heart and a desire to do, God honored that. And I remember when I was about 6 or 7 years old, we got a call in the middle of the night. And the call was to let us know that the church was on fire. And I remember my parents whisking me out to the car in PJs and seeing, once we got there, I remember seeing the flames coming out of the side of the church. I remember the smell that night. And I just remember the heartbreak and seeing my grandfather's face and how broken that made him to see that kind of damage. And so I understand even seeing something that you feel passionate about be damaged in that way. So again, Nehemiah is looking at an entire city that has experienced that. As they've gone back into Jerusalem, they've gone in waves, and we've actually discussed some of these in our previous lesson. There were prophets that God sent. So there was Zechariah and Haggai. And last week we looked at the prophet Nehemiah. Now, each one of these prophets sort of had a focus area. And if you think about leaders that you've served with, your leaders, you probably have learned different things from different leaders, right? So maybe under this leader, you learn how to love people. Under this leader, maybe you learn how to be accountable for resources. Under this leader, you may have learned how to budget. Every leadership has a thing. And so the prophets were like that as well. Zechariah and Haggai were the ones who pushed people to make God a priority. Like, yeah, we're rebuilding the temple. We're rebuilding a city. We need to do that. But y'all can't say over here, you're worried about just your houses and living in plush mansions while the house of God lies in waste. You can't do that. And then we studied Ezra last week. And Ezra, as he moved that second group of exiles, he made sure that they were reestablishing the sacrificial systems of worship, and made it clear that they would only be successful if they were committed to the worship of God and remembering his law. Now, here is Nehemiah, who is here some 11 years after Ezra, and his work is to do. It is the physical rebuilding. It's interesting because I ask you about the things that really break your heart, the things that you see in other people. Sometimes Sister Wilson says how our children kill one another. Some people see that and they just think, okay, it's just something that happened. No, there are some things that you and I may see, and it may seem that a lot of other people don't care about it, but God may give you a burden for that thing, a burden to act. And that's what happens with Nehemiah. He is not only a man who has a broken heart, because you can't just look around at things and feel sorry. Oh, that's too bad. Oh, the police are killing our black men. That's really too bad. No, when you see a thing, what is the responsible action? How is God moving you to move? And in this case, again, Nehemiah wanted to rebuild. Why did he want to rebuild? Well, the one thing he said to God was essentially, our land has become a reproach. Like, people, this is embarrassing. We are your people. And this is what people see when they look at how your people are displaced. We're in captivity. We're not in our homeland, and it lies in waste. So not only does he want to do something, not only is something heavy on him, he begins to act. And I'm getting us up to verse 11. This is why background is so important in our lesson. It helps to shape our story. Now that he has a burden, Nehemiah in chapter 2, verses 1 through 10, he actually does pray. And he talks to God about what he wants to do. And then he still realizes that even though he's got this big job ahead, there are hurdles. Y'all, this lesson is so packed. If you are an individual who has ever planned any type of work, if you're a business owner, if you're looking at your family, if you're looking at personal things, the idea is that you have a really big job ahead. How do I begin to move? What do I do? I know that there are things that stand between me and the completion of the work, my desire. Well, the first thing again was to pray. Next, he realized that he had to get the approval of Artaxerxes, the king. And so after he prays, in his prayer, it's not just God help me rebuild. He actually confesses the sin of his people. He includes himself and his family. We have all sinned in this. But then he asks God to help him. And if you will help me, and he even says to God, use me, make me the individual that is a difference maker in the bad thing that I see. Well, 4 months passed between his prayer and the moment that he is in front of King Artaxerxes. Oh my goodness, I keep telling you, there's so much in this lesson. If you desire to do a thing, and I go back to especially those of you who are entrepreneurs, you can't just dream of starting a thing. You need to dream, and your action has to include planning. What if today, and I'm going to ask you this, I don't know what your dream is, and go ahead and start to share with me your assignment or your dream or a thing that you may feel passionate about doing. You can share those with me in the comments. And then after that, I'm going to ask you, if the person today showed up with the ability to make the difference, to grant you everything that you needed to be successful, what would you tell them? Would you be able to outline exactly what it is that you need? Not, oh, I think I want to start a business and I think it will be cool. No, I want to start a business and I need these 3 things to get started. This is what it would take to make me successful. Yes, Sister Cynthia, he prayed, he confessed, he made a request, and he waited for God's time. And in that request, he was ready for his moment. He goes in one day with the king on his regular cupbearer job, and the king observes that he looks broken. He's sad. His countenance is heavy. Now, that was a dangerous thing because no one was supposed to go in before the king sad. Your job was to be happy and to make the king's environment happy. And so the king that day is feeling especially nice. A not so nice man is feeling nice. Y'all realize that's a God thing that can turn somebody's heart on that day, the moment that you need. And God can do that for you. The day that you need to be in front of the right person with the right thing, God will set that up for you. You need to make sure that you are ready for your moment. And Nehemiah was. So when the king asked him, what is it you need? You know, you look sad. What's going on? I know you're not sick. And so Nehemiah explains to him that he's heavy. And this is what I want to do. Here's why I'm sad. I'm sad because I'm looking at my homeland of Jerusalem, and man, it's torn up over there. It's bad. We are a reproach. That's my problem. Here's what I need. King says, how can I help you? And that's the question. Be ready for the how can I help you that may show up in your life. God is going to provide some of you a how may I help you? And you need to make sure that you're ready like Nehemiah. Here's what I need. I want to go. And I need from you, I need resources. I don't have anything to rebuild, but Persia owns all of the forests around here, and you got treasury. So I need the resources to go and rebuild. And oh yeah, while I'm rebuilding for the Lord, I'm gonna need some things to rebuild my house too. I need somewhere to live while I'm there. He also asked the king for the authorization papers, because I've got to travel over 1,000 miles. And somebody's going to stop me and ask some questions. So when I move, I need to be able to move with your authority. So I need your permission. God sets him up and gives him everything that he needs. The king even gives him more. The king actually even gives him, verse 9 tells us, he sent along protection for him, army officers and horsemen to protect him. And as he prepares to go, yes, ask and it shall be given, designer grandma. Yes, Brother Kevin, prayer opened the door for provision. And that provision was permission. It was provision. He got protection, all from that prayer. When you are trying to do something big for God, never negate the importance of the prayer. I'm getting us to verse 11, but all of this is important because before he even gets to the city, this all matters because he's inside of a plan. I want to point out again, the timing of God. Sister Cynthia gave us this. Hey, LB, glad you made it. And I'll make sure to tell everybody about your song before I get out of here today. Timing matters. So between the time Nehemiah prays and even the time that he gets in front of the king, 4 months have passed. When you are doing a thing for God, when you are moving, and I know I'm talking a lot about business this morning because I literally felt that in my class earlier, as you're moving, make sure that you are not in a hurry to do the wrong thing. I'm a person who likes to plan, and I like to write out project plans and figure out the contingencies and what resources are needed. And I have another friend who the moment they get an idea in their head, this afternoon, they're going to execute. But you don't always think of the things that can happen in the meantime, and God may not be ready for you to move. And God was not ready for Nehemiah to move right after the prayer. He made it 4 months before he even got in front of the king. And guess what Nehemiah did until God moved the next piece? He just kept being the cupbearer. While God is working our things out, keep doing the job that you're in. Do it with a good attitude. Do it with a good spirit. And wait and be ready for God to respond to the prayer. Now that Nehemiah's got what he needs, he's got provision, protection, and permission. He's ready to move. But guess what? Sanballat and Tobiah hear about the plan. And if you look in Ezra, you know that they did not want the city of Jerusalem to be rebuilt. Why? Because it represented an economic threat to them. They didn't want anything that could be bigger or better or badder than they were. And so already they have a problem with the fact that the king has authorized this action. Let me move ahead to verses 11 through 20. So now with all of this, Nehemiah goes to Jerusalem. He is there and he is ready now to begin the project. But once again, I just pointed out timing because timing matters. And even to get between the two places, that was 1,100 miles. There's still time. 4 months between the prayer and the meeting with the king. 1,100 miles between the meeting and the provision of the king until getting into Jerusalem. He is at least 6 months from the time he had a thing in his heart to do. Y'all, the timing of God is so important. You're never in a hurry to do the wrong thing. Never. So always wait for God's timing. And so when he gets into the city, He's thinking about how he's going to attack the work. And there are so many of us. Yes, Sister Mother Laurie, every assignment from God is important. And yes, where God guides, he will provide. Sister Deborah tells us that the heart of the king is in the hand of the Lord. Absolutely. And so as he is now in Jerusalem, he's got this big job ahead. And I don't know if you've ever sat down to attack a project. And I don't care what it is. All projects for me are big projects, because you got to think about all of the pieces of it. It's not just, I'm going to show up now and just start throwing walls up again. But he needed to understand the scope of the work to be done. And so he's got to think about it. He's gathered everything. He's there. And now for 3 days, he still doesn't do anything. And sometimes we need to learn the value of just waiting. Here's the thing about it. If God has called you to a thing, if God has given you an assignment, then the time that it takes to wait to hear from him and to know that he's going to move is not going to nullify the assignment. It's going to keep you in the space he wants you to be. And so Nehemiah goes out by night. There's a great deal of discretion that he's moving in as he prepares to, all he's doing is surveying. He is surveying in secret, surveying in silence. Why at night? So that people weren't in his business. People weren't figuring out what he was trying to do. And that's the issue with so many of us today. We have too many people in your business. Why? Because we need the affirmation of people. We want people to tell us it's okay. People put things out on Facebook too soon. Want people to like the work that you're doing. You better be careful. Why? Nehemiah needed to be careful because who may try to sabotage him? Same reason you need to think about the work that you do. Don't put things out too soon. Protect the work that you're going to do. Make sure of your work plan before you put it out there. So not only does he travel by night, but he travels lightly. He travels lightly in terms of the number of people. Everybody can't go with you at every point in your journey. God will show you what people. And when I pray, I'm always praying, God, connect me with the right people, with the right resources at the right time to do what I need to do. It may not be time for me to meet this person, but as I go along the journey, God will give you who you need. And in this moment, he doesn't need an audience. There are some of you, God is moving you in some things. And I know you want somebody to tell you good job, or you want them to know, but right now he's not giving you to get the affirmation of people. Do it the way he's showing you to do it. Move the way he tells you to move. So not only is he traveling lightly in terms of people, but he even only has one animal. Not a caravan. Remember the camels with the 3 wise men. And I said 3. The Bible doesn't say there was 3. The camels with the wise men were loaded with gifts, right? The camels as they came in. But everybody saw the caravan coming, right? It was a big deal. You could see the caravan from afar. He didn't travel with a caravan. He had one beast. And that was the one he rode up on. So he traveled lightly. Not only that, didn't need a whole bunch of animals making noises walking through the night. Learn to travel quietly. Learn to travel quietly. He also waited on the word from the Lord. He's just waiting at this point. He's not impulsive. And I can't stress that enough, that we've got to watch impulsive behaviors. Learn to move in ways that are conservative. Be okay with keeping things under your hat, not telling everyone all of your plans. As he goes on, all he's doing. And yes, Sister Sandra, sometimes you have to move in secret. Sister Brenda, everybody cannot come with you. Sister Diana Green says God does some of his best work at night. Sister Diana, I shared a message once when I spoke entitled God in the Darkness. And that was the premise of the message, that God does move in dark. He does move sometime in our darkest spaces, and he does absolutely move at night. Ask God to connect us with the right people and resources in the right time. Sister Deborah, absolutely. And no, Sister Brenda, you never let many people know your moves. That's right. Don't put it out there for everybody. Again, you're not looking for the co-signing of people. You just need to know that God is moving you. And y'all, I believe that's why these lessons come to us, to build us in our confidence in God. Our world has moved into too much of a space that requires the affirmation of people. Like, people are making their decisions now on how many likes they get on a social media site, or who gives them comments or feedback. If God told you to do it, do what he told you to do. So as Nehemiah moves, he finds out that the city is trashed. It is destroyed. It's a complete mess. There is no, as he circles all these places that he stops, everywhere he goes out by night, by the valley of the gate, even before the dragon well, to the dung port, and viewed the walls of Jerusalem, which were broken down, and the gates thereof, which were consumed with fire. Then I went to the gate of the fountain and to the king's pool, but there was no place for the beast to even pass under me that I was on. As he's moving, nothing is untouched. That's what all those stops are. At every gate, I saw the same thing, destruction. It was so bad that even the animal that he was on was having difficulty clearing the way. And an animal should have been able to walk over a lot, but it was difficult for them, ladies. I thought about us walking on gravel and shoes and how it just feels unstable. Evangelist Allen says, my motto is, I can show you better than I can tell you. Absolutely. Hashtag for this week is probably going to be silent moves for sure. I love that, Brother Kevin. I do believe these lessons are right on time. Yes, LB. It is building me and affirming that God truly got this. Absolutely. God's got you. God's got this for sure. In verses 15 and 16, he kept moving. And even though the animal's having difficulty, he doesn't stop. Well, let's just insert that there. His attempt to move through the rubble, it's not easy, but I think that's just indicative of the work. He realizes this is not easy, but guess what? Then I didn't stop. Just because I saw it was hard, I didn't stop. Just because it was probably bigger than I imagined, I didn't stop. Because why? I knew that God had shown me this thing. I'm in a place where the rubble is so bad, my animal is having difficulty. It'd be easy right now to say, you know what? Maybe not. This was a whole lot more than I thought, but now that I'm in here, I don't know about this. No, he has already had these assurances along the way that the hand of God is upon him. God hasn't failed him to this point. So verse 15 and 16, then I went up in the night by the brook, and I viewed the wall, and then I turned back and entered by the gate of the valley, and so returned. And the rulers knew not whither I went, or what I did, neither had I as yet told it to the Jews, nor the priests, nor the nobles, nor the rulers, nor the rest that did the work. Again, as he has surveyed this, he's turned around now and gone home. And the one thing he still knows is this job is massive. He sees that there's no other way to frame this up. I've got a clear picture that I have a big job up ahead. And yet, notice here that there's nothing in here that says that he has lost heart or lost faith in God. Sister Joyce says, what I'm getting from this message is to cry out to God and he will respond. Don't tell everyone what your assignment is. It's between you and God until the time is right. Absolutely. In verses 17 and 18, then I said unto them, ye see the distress we are in, and how Jerusalem lieth in waste, and the gates thereof are burned with fire. Come and let us build up the wall of Jerusalem, that we be no more a reproach. Then I told them of the hand of my God, which was upon me, and also of the king's words that he had spoken unto me. And they said, let us rise up and build. So they strengthened their hands for this good work. Nehemiah is back now. He knows the scope of the work. He is a confident leader because he knows that God's hand is on him. He's got the affirmation, the assignment, the permission, the provision given by God through the king. And he now knows, big job, I can't do this by myself. There will be times as you are moving that you will realize that the job is big and you cannot do the job by yourself. Let me speak to entrepreneurs again. There are going to be times in your business, and I know that we try to manage the P&L and we're trying to watch the dollars, but there are going to be times that you realize that the scope of the work that God has called you to do is bigger than you. And you're going to have to be able to communicate vision to others and to get them to buy in and become a part of the work. So that's what happens here when Nehemiah begins to speak. He has plans in his heart that he cannot execute by himself. And so now he's got to motivate this group of people. And let me just tell you that motivating people is not easy. If you're a leader in this group, and there are many of you here, what do you do? What are your strategies for motivating other people? You can share those with me in the comments. How do you motivate people? And if you're not someone who leads a team today, I'm going to ask you this, because I told my class earlier, this is the seat that I sat in. What makes you join a leader? Because again, when I see a job this big, all of that's out there and we got to clean it up. Woo, I just don't know. Oh, wait, how long are we going to work? Day and night? How long is this project going to take? A couple of years? Ooh, it's a lot out there. Oh my goodness, I just don't know, right? That's what you're dealing with here. And so Nehemiah is helping them. He is a motivational leader who's able to say, first of all, you see the same thing I see. You're looking at it and you know this is bad. Our city lies in waste. Notice how he inserts himself as a part of the community and as a part of the solution. He says this belongs to us and it lies in waste. It's beat up. The gates are burned. Look at all this. He lays out everything that's wrong. And then he rallies the people. Let us go and let's build this wall. He inserts himself as a part of the solution. Y'all, I don't do well with leaders who only point out fault and want things to be fixed, but they don't show themselves as being part of the solution. That's just one of my personal things. I don't do well with that. I love a leader who will be a part of the solution. And that is what Nehemiah has done here. By working alongside him, Sister Sandra says, they're letting him know that they are not alone in it. Absolutely. Yes, buy-in is so important, Sister Deborah. And this is Nehemiah who is gaining buy-in from agreeing that we have a problem, getting them to buy into the vision that we don't have to look like we're looking today. We shouldn't be okay with this. Almost a reminder, do you know who we are? This is the city where God chose to put his name. This is where God, do you remember what we used to be? Do you remember what used to happen here? And now look at it. We can't go out like that. And he is able to rally these people that we be no longer a reproach. LB says, finding the team can be challenging. I've learned not to convince people. You give people the pitch. In the end, you want people to be who want to be there. Absolutely. You want people who want to be a part of the work that is being done. And I think that that is what Nehemiah does. He speaks to the want to. Not just that you want to get in here and do physical labor, but what you want is to make sure that we represent the God that we serve. You want to make sure that this is a place where God is proud that his name was. Nehemiah looked at the destruction and they were living in and started to considering it they considered it the norm, right, Elder Kelly? Absolutely. Evangelist Allen. Different people have different motivators. Some are motivated by gift and reward. Others are motivated by knowing how they fit into the big picture. Absolutely. And again, I think Nehemiah is speaking to the motivation of, look at this. Do y'all realize this used to be and what we can be? And he speaks to them in a way, and as Evangelist Allen says, it resonates with them by the way they were motivated, to the point that in verse 18, not only that he says, you see it, there's a work, but there's more. God's hand is on me. It's not just on me a little. His hand is good on me. And the king has already sent me here to get started. So now let us do this. And based on what they heard and the motivation and feeling the moment, you've been in some of those as well, where you've been in a space and you're like, how did I end up making that decision to say yes? Because that charismatic leader helped you to buy into vision. And here are these people, they're responding. They are encouraged. They are excited about being a part of the work. They believe that it is a job that can be done. And they say, let us rise up and build. Two things. Let us get up. Let us get into action and let us begin to do the work. And then the third thing they did, they strengthened their hands for this good work. They got ready to get in and roll up their sleeves and be a part of that success. Designer Grandma, you are amazing. I'm just seeing your contribution. Thank you so much for blessing our class today. In verse 19, all these good things are happening. Nehemiah is excited. He's still got this passion and burning and burden. He's talked to the Lord. The king has supported him, given him everything that he needed. He's gone out and he's seen that it's a big job, but he's still encouraged and ready to go. He's already talked to people and leaders now, and they're ready to go. What could go wrong? Verse 19 tells us when Sanballat the Horonite and Tobiah the servant of the Ammonite and Geshem the Arabian heard it, they laughed us to scorn and despised us and said, what is this thing that you'll do? Will ye rebel against the king? Whenever people of God get ready to do something powerful for God, we should anticipate our objection. Necessarily always go on without a hitch. And that's what happens here. These men, again, disturbed that this city even had possibilities. There's not even a beam that's up yet. They haven't hammered a nail. Nothing has happened, but already opposition is present. There are people, there are systems that don't want to see you succeed. In fact, I said this earlier today. There are actually some people that are fine with you as long as you're down here. But the moment you begin to look like you're on your come up, they got so much to say. They're laughing. Your ideas seem silly. They speak ill of you. Oh, they're never going to do that. How do you think you're going to do that? Who do you think you are? And in their case, they even accused him of rebelling against the king. Sister Diana says, you know you're doing a good job when the naysayers show up. Sister Sandra, the mockers are always there to discourage you. The naysayers, absolutely, they are always going to be present. But in verse 20, Nehemiah responds. He answered them and he said, the God of heaven will prosper us. Therefore, we, his servants, will arise and build, but you will have no portion, nor right, nor memorial in Jerusalem. Now, remember, Nehemiah is carrying papers from the king. He anticipated opposition. And I know he's a better man than I am, because if somebody had opposed me, I'd have been like, do you see these papers? I got, this is what my authorization is. But he never even pulled out his papers. He went to the strongest source he could. You sit there and laugh. Don't worry about what I'm doing, because the God that I serve, the God in heaven, the God who has authorized this and orchestrated my every move, he is the one that is going to allow us to prosper. He is going to allow us good success. And not only do I stand here and tell you we're going to be successful, but when you, the same people who oppose me, who mock me, who challenge me today, when you have to stand here and see the success, know this thing, that you'll get no credit and you will have no right to any portion of this land. They actually know that from Ezra chapter 2, verses 59 and 60, that they would not have any rights to the land. And so we must anticipate our opposition. God help Nehemiah, the cupbearer. And when I looked at that title, it was very provocative. A cupbearer, a very a serving man in a very normal job, who is called to do something incredible for God. And I believe that God today is doing just that. Whatever your job is. I tell people sometimes, I'm just a Sunday school teacher. I really am. But he's going to take your normal, serving, regular, show up every day space. And if you're open to him and stay before him and allow him to help you and give you the strategy, he can help you to do big things. So if you today could rewrite this lesson title, what is your name? Your name. What is your average job? And what is the thing that God has called you to do? I'm Waynell. I'm a Sunday school teacher who is changing the way that people see Sunday school. How does God take your space and allow you to do great things? Keep your eyes open. Don't lose your sensitivity to the things around you that bother you. Ask God, just like Nehemiah, where you feel that burden, to help you, to use you. When God stirs your heart, these are my key learnings, know that he'll complete the work in you that he has started. That you can face any obstacle, honestly, without becoming overwhelmed or discouraged. Don't give up even when your situation looks difficult or demanding, or even there are discouraging people. Know that no matter what, that God is on your side and that he's able. And as long as the hand of God is on you, he is going to protect you. He gives you permission. He's going to bring you to the right people in the right presence. And he is always going to give you provision. Those are my learnings. And you can go ahead and drop your key learnings. I can't believe I'm done at 10:30 on the dot today. Yay. Find your why. You will have a purpose. Sister Brenda, you know I believe in the why and the purpose so much. Find your why and you will indeed have purpose. I love you all so much. Sister Amina, a motivator, letting God take me higher so I can lead the people assigned to me to our Father God. I love all of that. And I love all of you. Service is starting here. If you don't have a place that you're worshiping today, I invite you to join me here at the Dominion Word Ministries, Church of God in Christ. We'll go live we're already live on YouTube, and we'll go live here on Facebook as well. And you're able to join the worship service. I love y'all so much. Don't forget, Markup Monday is tomorrow at 7:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you do not receive the emails already, make sure that you get over to that SundaySchoolGirl.com and get signed up. It's free to do, and you'll get good stuff. I love y'all so much. Thank you to everybody. And thank you again, Brother Kevin, for your incredible gift. Thank you to everyone who shared in our Sunday school class offering today. You all are amazing. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good Sunday. Bye-bye.